Welcome to the weekly news roundup, where we take you through the news that made the headlines over the past week and give you detail on why it matters. I am Chidi, and these are the headlines. MP's boycott triggers ZANU-PF ED. Crisis in Chamisa's camp. Death toll in Chebutu mine disaster goes up. Mnangagwa sets agenda for Parliament. Government critic fired. Cabinet worried over rubbish. In business news, BT says Mutapa fund is a looting scheme. Join me, Chidi, after this break for these stories and others in greater detail. And so we provide a platform to tell Zimbabwe's untold stories.
Future-proofing the next generation of Zimbabwe.
To building the economy through meaningful, objective dialogue.
We do this to foster empathy in an already fragmented environment.
Breaking the barriers in the digital world, because the future is digital.
We pride ourselves in our thoroughness to research issues and topics which are current and will have an impact in the future. We are the heart and soul broadcasting services.
Welcome back to the news roundup, and here is the news in greater details. ZANU-PF legislators and ministers, who included Monica Muchangwa and Justice Minister Ziyambi, were frothing over the boycott on President Emmerson Mnangagwa's State of the Nation address by CCC legislators. The CCC, which has disputed Mnangagwa's re-election, were in no show when the president delivers his State of the Nation address and officially opened Parliament. Our reporter Gaddafi Walls filed this report.
A boycott on President Emmerson Mnangagwa's State of the Nation address by CCC legislators appears to have hit hard in the hearts of ZANU-PF, who are now threatening to withhold political financing to Nelson Chamisa's party. Justice Minister Ziyambi said it was time to look into the law and possibly punish Chamisa by withholding funds.
There is a Political Finances Act for members, for parties who are in Parliament. Now, if you are not attending Parliament, that is what the Speaker said, can we look at it with a view of ensuring that if there are no provisions to sanction them, we tighten up the legislation.
Women Affairs Minister Monica Muchangwa was also worked up and could not hide her disdain at the actions of the CCC, who themselves have not spoken on the SONA as if nothing happened.
What does it mean to you? What does it mean to you, who you're asking me? If somebody has been elected by the people to go to Parliament and then they don't attend the first session of the 10th Parliament, I don't know what it means to you.
War Veterans Minister Christopher Muchangwa accused Chamisa of being duplicitous and hypocritical, saying he should accept the president's victory in the same manner he accepted the victory of his parliamentarians.
We can't be bothered by South losers. They have a cafeteria approach to elections. They, on one hand, they won in all the seats in urban areas. They are chest pumping themselves for winning those elections. On the other hand, they lose in the same elections. They lose the presidential vote and they are sulking because of that. You can't have your bed and lie on it, you know.
Meanwhile, Chamisa has ignored ZANU-PF and has been on nationwide meetings galvanizing support as his party looks to face a stubborn ZANU-PF in a 5-year marathon to state power. Chamisa has been in Midlands, Bulawayo and parts of Matebeleland seeking advice on the way forward as he seeks to solve the jigsaw puzzle to getting into State House. Gaddafi Wells, HSTV News, Parliament.
Crisis is brewing in Nelson Chamisa's CCC with a repeat of the MDC alliance saga in the offing. Sengezo Chabang, who claims to be the party's interim Secretary General, issued an order recalling legislators and councillors claiming they had since stopped being party members. The CCC has, however, dismissed Chabangu, saying he is a fraudulent imposter who has never been part of the party from its inception. Benga legislator Prince Dubego Sibanda, who is among those recalled, said he has since reported Shabangu of fraud to the police. Turning to the courts, Adele Marimbisi gives us our crime report.
Owing to harsh economic conditions, many young people are being forced into crime in a bid to make a living. Many have resorted to fraud, armed robbery, and stock theft in an attempt to beat poverty. One of those caught in the net is Tendai Richio, an alleged serial armed robber who this week appeared before Magistrate Maria Wanashokofa, facing 8 counts of armed robbery he alleged committed between December last year and February this year. The state alleges the accused, together with his accomplice, who are still at large, assaulted and robbed their victims on 8 different occasions. Ruchio, who said he was too poor to afford a lawyer, applied for bail, which was opposed owing to his alleged propensity to commit crime. He will be back in court on 11 October for trial. Farai Tagwada also appeared before Gofa, facing attempted murder charges. He is accused of stabbing his victim with an okapi knife in the chest after a quarrel over a debt on gloves. The gloves have been bought on credit by his victim's wife. The accused has since been placed on remand and will be back in court on the 9th of October. Adele Mambirisi, HSTV, Rotten Row.
Turning to some sad news. The search and rescue operations, which many now believe could just be search and recover, continue in Chegutu, where over 39 miners were initially trapped alive when a mine shaft collapsed at Bay House Mine in Chegutu. The death toll has so far gone up to 4, while 7 are still believed to be missing. 9 miners have since been rescued, while the other 13 found their way out. Government has since declared the Bay House Mine accident a state disaster.
Cabinet also received updates on the Bay House Mine disaster in Chegutu district and the plane crash in Mashawa district, which occurred on the 29th of September 2023, as reported by the Minister of Local Government and Public Works, Honorable Winston Chitando. Regarding the Bay House Mine disaster, Cabinet advises that it has since been confirmed that a total of 39 miners were trapped in a kilometer-long tunnel at the mine on the fateful day. A total of 13 people escaped when the mine collapsed. 9 were rescued, 4 bodies were retrieved, 6 are still trapped under a large boulder, while 7 are still missing.
Raitika vaipa istaichira titori mugomba vachipinge mabhanji saka mugodhi uyo watanga urira taitori pamwe mahora kuti ase pari urira godhi pane vamwe vakatanga kutiza ina ndo vakatsimbira isusu parikazopedzera mhepo yevibration yendo yavhara yatidzosera kumashure ndopona kwatakaita tatazotena chidzosera kumashure.
Nyaya ndakatanga kuona kupiri WhatsApp kandiri reward 20 ichitotaura kuti Begos yauraya vana so far 11 village 11 3 confirmed kuti vashaya. Saka panaona pachinzi village 11 ndabonasa kuti mwana womukoma mushi ndo paari ndokuchizobva ndabata foni. Pandikubata foni ndikutoona message iri kubva mukoma South kuti bamini matunzira kuti mwana aita sei atirigwa nemugoti kuPegos. Ndikati network yanga chineza bokisini kwese. Saka zendase ndiona kuti mamessage ari kubva papi. Kana kuzobata foni kunditsvage mamessage ena zvishua atonzi mwana wako tapiwa aripo neshamwari dzake na Forbes na nomwanti nyawa ukashaya nyama ndikuzofamba ndogara kuvillage 14 ndiko nemusha wangu ndikuzofamba ndasvika panapa kumaraundi 7 dzemanheru. Saka time ndakasvika ndakaona vachiri bhizi kubuditsa vamwe vanga vakakuvara vakabuditsa about vanhu 409 vanga vakakuvara vakabuda ndiripo. Akazopedzisira kubuda shamwari yemwana wangu anonzi nyawa wachoni ndakamuona akumotikari yendrikini fire brigade akuda kudiswa kuchipatara. Ndakazoti ndakajonera ndabva pasi apo jonera ndamuona paari afa, asi vanhu varipo ndavaratidza kuti jonera ari apo paari anokwanisa kubva nezanezuro kwakumatini. Saka kubva kumatini zanezuro vanhu vaifukura vakazobuda kumaraundi 12 vachiti vaneta 12 dzeusiku, then ndobva tadzoka panapa kuseni kuno tine tarisiro yekuti pamwe pane zvinoita zvinobuda, asi vari kuona pane mwana wangu pari zvakataura kuti aripo ari kuoneka. Chiri kusiyana chekuti matombo akamutsitsirira acho, vangu vachiti kuti matombo aya takamabata sometimes anopedzera atedza futi akatiuraya futi senge tiri pasi. Saka pane chemical yavari kunzi vazopiwa nemaindia, vakainzi vakabora matombo iwayayo vakadira that chemical inokreka chete matombo iwaya asingachambi. Saka nopoa tikaona chemical yapo after maybe 2 hours inenge yakreka.
Kuti vanhu varambe vachishanda maine aparara pasi kubva panapa kusvika ukwisa hapana pane gumo. Saka vanhu vaingomanikidziswa kushanda zvichikorokoza asi maine haichatova pamutemo pokuti vana varambe vari pasi, nekuti vakaramba vari pasi vana vese vanoparara hapana anodzoka. Saka vaingoita vachingoisa nharo pakati pazviri nokuda ngoti vaingoda mari muhomwe dzavo, ivo vachizvitiwo tiri vakuru, asi ukuru hwacho hwanga uri ukuru hwehumbavha hune chitsotsi mukati vachinyepera nahwo yekuti tiri vemusangano. Saka ndo chichemo chatinacho kuti ayo kana zvichingotendedzwa vemaini vakuru ichi mugodhi chinofanira kungovharwa, pamugodhi apa pasatambirwi pasapindwa nekuti mugodhi uno wakafa. Ndo chokwadi chiripo, hapana nawo inoti vanhu varambe vaita vachishandwa kana muchida kuti vana varambe vaita vachirarama, asi kana muchidawo imini kuti vanhu vashande zviri zvenyika zvongoda kuti vanhu mungodawo mari kugodhi chitoro munongoraisawo vana saizvose mafiro avaita.
President Emmerson Mnangagwa insisted that his government will continue pushing to sustain the local currency, which has been taking a hit from hard currencies. In his State of the Nation address, Mnangagwa said his finance minister was winning the currency war and bringing fiscal stability, a statement disputed by captains of industry. Zimbabwe Anti-Corruption Commission ZAC chairperson post is now vacant after President Emmerson Mnangagwa appointed the current chair Lois Matanda Moyo to a new position of Prosecutor General. Matanda Moyo, a sitting High Court judge, replaces Kumbirai Hodzi, who retired on medical grounds last year. Kelly Mabaire filed this story.
President Emmerson Mnangagwa this week appointed Justice Lois Matanda Moyo the first female Prosecutor General in Zimbabwe. Justice Matanda Moyo was serving as the Zimbabwe Anti-Corruption Commission chairperson, departs with immediate effect to fill the post left vacant following Kumbirai Hodzi's resignation on medical grounds. This means Mnangagwa will now have to make a new pick for the ZAC's top post. In the past, public hearings were required to fill the post of the Prosecutor General, but a constitutional amendment gifted the president sole powers to make that appointment. Matanda Moyo is also wife to the late Army General Busiso Moyo, who played a leading role in the 2017 coup. Moyo was appointed Foreign Affairs Minister while his wife rose to the apex of SAC. She has been accused of failing to live up to the standards of her post as the chief corruption buster. Reporting for HSTV News and Current Affairs, Kelly Mabaire.
President Emmerson Mnangagwa insisted that his government will continue pushing to sustain the local currency, which has been taking a hit from hard currencies. In his State of the Nation address, Mnangagwa said his finance minister was winning the currency war and bringing fiscal stability, a statement disputed by captains of industry. Our reporter Bongai Kawa filed this story.
Critics have dismissed the President Emmerson Mnangagwa's State of the Nation address, saying it's all thunder and no rain. Mnangagwa in his Sona spoke of an improved economy while hyping his finance minister Mthuli Ncube for retaining the local currency.
The fiscal consolidation measures and reforms have ensured positive fiscal outcomes that are critical for budget stability and sustainability and lasting macroeconomic stability. Complementary fiscal and monetary policies have positively impacted the attainment of the prevailing stable macroeconomic environment. Going forward, the Second Republic remains resolute in implementing measures that ensure confidence in our domestic currency.
Former Norton legislator Themba Mliswa, however, dismissed Mnangagwa's SONA, saying it was divorced from actions on the ground.
Those are figures which the president has before him by his executive, but they are in contrast with what is on the ground. There are two issues. The executive giving him figures, okay, and then there's also the aspect of those figures matching what is taking place on the ground. And clearly the figures that he has been given is not what is happening on the ground, because Zimbabweans still languish in poverty. They're still having difficulties. There's no stability of the currency. One example is fuel. Fuel is as good as $2 per liter, and that is an indicator which basically tells you that things are not well. At the same time, the salaries, disposable income remains what it is. So how do you then expect people to survive when there is no improvement and or there is no increment on disposable income to match the prices on the market? Fuel has gone up. So if fuel has gone up, how come salaries have not gone up? That's a very simple issue that does not need a rocket scientist or a genius of economy. Kana maprice akwira, mari dzevanhu ngadzikwira, so that vange vane simba rekutenga zvinhu and so forth. That's why even if we use the Zim dollar at the end of the day, you must be able to pay people at the prevailing black market rate, because most of the things you get in the shop are bought using black market rates, not the auction rate. Are you with me? If it was the auction rate, then you pay them at auction rates. Even if you're paying them at auction rates at the time, factor in the percentage of inflation. So at the end of the month, if inflation is 300%, you then give them according to that, because they then buy their things. They then buy their things on a true value, not increasing their salaries, but prices are increasing. It does not work, and it will never work. This is where the issue is in terms of those figures. They don't match what is happening on the ground. Production must be able to stabilize the economy, and production meaning that there's money coming in. We've been producing, we seem to be importing, we seem to be producing minerals where we don't get anything out of it. The lithium which is there, how much have we generated? The platinum, the gold, how much have we generated? There's no point going on top of the mountain talking about Zimbabwe having good resources when those resources are not then impacting on people's lives in terms of a better welfare, from social issues like better health, education, the disabled being factored in, employment and all that.
Economist Professor Gift Mugano said the SONA was not an honest statement and should be taken with a pinch of salt.
No one would really know in terms of the exact figures, because what we are being given is not correct. So if the agricultural sector is now 8 billion, mining is now 12 billion, what it means is that our economy is made up of two sectors, agriculture and mining, because if we add those two figures, we get 20 billion, which is the size of our economy. So you can see I'm giving you validated views from a triangulation point of view to say what we are being told is not correct.
However, Christopher Mutsangwa, Mnangagwa's war veterans minister, was all praises, saying SONA hit all the right chords.
The president laid out the legislative agenda of the parliament, which is firmly rooted upon, building upon what he achieved in his first term as the president of the republic. Zimbabwe is on a development trajectory. Nothing is going to stop Zimbabwe from making rapid progress. We are already the fastest regional economy. We will be very soon Africa's fastest growing economy. All around, in mining, in agriculture, the engine is pumping at full throttle, and the president is building upon those successes in his second term.
As the year progresses, it remains to be seen if the economy is ticking in the right direction. Wangai Kawa, reporting for HSTV News, Harare.
Economist and government critic Gift Mugano was fired from the prestigious Zimtrade board. No reasons were given by a government in Mugano's dismissal letter, which was signed by the Permanent Secretary for Foreign Affairs, James Manzou. Mugano, who once served as acting board chairman of the now defunct Cisco Steel, has openly supported CCC and its leader Nelson Chamisa. In his social media posts, he has been critical of President Emmerson Mnangagwa and his ability to turn around the economy. Mugano speaks on his love-hate relationship with government.
My independent standing on the economic front, like now, I'm sure you followed the way I've analyzed your questions and presented them. A bit robust. Government want economists who are just supporting. Economists must not support for the sake of supporting. Neither economists must disagree for the sake of disagreeing. Your first question, I've agreed with you that the growth rates are positive. It's very true. That's a fact. Where I've disagreed, I've given you national figures for you to see that I've disagreed. So this other side of disagreeing, government doesn't like it. And of course, I think it is only fair for me to say that I was very public that I'm going to vote Nelson Chamisa. I did not say I did not say I'm a member of CCC, but I said I am going to vote Nelson Chamisa. Clearly, because I had reasons for saying that this government has failed, and it has failed. You know, if your government was in power for the last 43 years, and the only thing which you can see is poverty, is social decay in our health service delivery, in education. I did not vote Nelson Chamisa for myself, because I can work anywhere in the world. I voted Nelson Chamisa for the poor people. And that's not a crime, because they put him on the ballot paper as government, because they recognize that they are going for competition. So that cannot be taken out as a reason why I was kicked out of Zimtrade.
Cabinet spent the better part of its meeting on Wednesday talking about rubbish. Addressing the media during a post-cabinet briefing, Information Minister Jenfen Muskwere said government was concerned about solid waste management and would soon be writing laws to deal with the problem. Government will soon impose fines on litter bags, teach children in schools about waste management, and force political parties to remove campaign posters.
Cabinet highlights that the state of cleanliness across the country, and in particular in the urban areas, is due to local authorities' ineptitude and negligence in collecting and managing solid waste disposal. On its part, the central government has made interventions to abet the situation, including the introduction of the National Cleanup campaign in 2018 and the declaration of a state of disaster in Harare Metropolitan Province in the year 2023. An emergent solid waste management program is currently underway under the state of disaster declaration. However, noting that the mismanagement of solid waste still persists, Cabinet approved the following measures in order to curb the unsustainable accumulation of waste. Number one, that a statutory instrument will be promulgated to make the National Cleanup Program compulsory for government ministries, departments, and agencies, local authorities, the business sector, vendors, retailers, and manufacturers. Second, that local authorities should localize the statutory instrument by promulgation of their relevant bylaws. Number three, that funds collected by local authorities from residents for waste management will be ring-fenced in order to ensure that the authorities do not divert the funds for other uses, with EMA supervising the usage of the funds. Number 4, that deterrent fines for public littering will be introduced and enforced, and repeat offenders charged with no option of a fine but given mandatory community service.
We turn to business news. President Emmerson Mnangagwa's controversial move to change the Sovereign Wealth Fund to Mutapa Investment Fund through the use of the Temporary Presidential Powers Act has triggered a national uproar. In an attempt to silence critics, Permanent Secretary George Guvamatanga tried to shed light on why Mnangagwa had taken the move, which many described as a heist.
On Friday, His Excellency exempted one entity, which is the Mutapa Investment Fund, from application of the procurement law. To be clear, in terms of the law, as contained in the general notice published last Friday, the exemption applies only to the fund and not to any other entities listed on the schedule. The fund merely owns shares in those entities, but does not change their legal character or separate legal entities distinct from the fund. So all this noise again that we are seeing, that every institution has been exempted, is not correct. Why has the fund been exempted from procurement law? Most of you know, but I think let me help those who don't. Because the fund by its nature will operate and compete in competitive markets in both the international and local market, competing against private equity funds and such type businesses. The fund will need to be quick, efficient, and cost-effective, and in some instances, by its nature, it will be involved in market-sensitive transactions, which, as an investment brokers here will know, will require such transactions to be handled differently. As such, it was important to place it at par with its peers.
Lawyer and former Finance Minister Tendai Biti has rubbished the explanation by Guvamatanga, saying the Mutapa Fund was extractive and a heist which will leave the people of Zimbabwe poor. Biti, who was speaking to Blaise Mhlanga on Free Talk, also said the use of the Presidential Powers Act was unconstitutional and therefore should be challenged in all spaces, including Parliament.
I'm a lawyer. I talk about the law. The law is very clear that any procurement in Zimbabwe must be subject to public accountability. This is Section 314 of the Constitution of Zimbabwe. Therefore, neither the President nor Guvamatanga can seek to exclude the operation of the Public Procurement Act from any transaction in Zimbabwe. So, because to do so will be against the provisions of the Constitution, which makes it very clear that all public procurement has to be done openly and transparently.
Some have called the Mutapa Fund the grand looting. Do you agree with that? And why?
It's an understatement. Number one, you are taking over the shares of 20 state-owned enterprises without any due diligence at all. Zimbabwe, or Rhodesia, was actually a state capitalist country. The Rhodesian economy was run through state capitalism. So in a very ironic way, it was more socialist than many of the socialist countries it hated, because its economies was run through state-owned enterprise, the Parastate House, the Grain Marketing Board, the Dairy Marketing Board, everything was run through Parastate House. About 102 of them that were contributing 60% of the country's GDP. 60% of the country's GDP. So what you have effectively done now is to privatize that economy, which is why those who are saying this is a grand east are correct, because it's being done without the transparency, without due diligence. How do you mix in one pot the shares of a broke organization like Zimbabwe, a broke organization like the Cold Storage Commission, like National Railways of Zimbabwe, with the blue chip assets like ZESA, like Net1, like Tel1, like the Industrial Corporation of Zimbabwe? It doesn't make sense. And when you sell, what are you selling? Are you selling a unit share of the Mutapa fund, or these shares are going to be kept separately in that book? These are the hard questions that are not answered by that statutory instrument.
We now turn to the video of the week.
About problems government is giving you about money, lack of money. Transaction fee. So no, second one, no buses. Donza. So I listened very intently when you were giving your summary. I ask that you give the copy to my secretariat, Magwamatanga or Charity, because I could see things I can take out there to create a few more pieces of legislation. No, to promote, not to suppress, to promote development, things that have been said in the statement. But I wonder why I could wait for this conference to say those things.
An embarrassing moment for a top South African police officer during a tour of the Beitbridge border post by the two presidents, Emmerson Mnangagwa and Cyril Ramaphosa.
This is the SARS post, the revenue service post. The presidents want to know about those cars. Read the other President
Mnangagwa.
They want to know about those cars.
Those cars?
Yes.
Those are for the bonded house, a private one that is
We
licensed.
can't hear you.
Thank you for joining us on the weekly roundup. Join me, Chengete Chidi, and the crew behind the HSTV News and Current Affairs Desk next week for another informative roundup. This bulletin was brought to you by the HSTV News and Current Affairs, Newsday, The Standard, and Zim Independent. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Until next time, take care and enjoy the rest of your week.